So when the trailer came out for this movie, there was a universal hatred for it, and so many people thought it looked so bad that it looked hilariously terrible. Just a lot of people thought it was a spoof or a comedy. They're like, there's no way this movie could be good. Even after some decent reviews and a couple people actually liking the film, my sister still refused to see it. Unfriended is a very simple but a very classic horror premise. Basically, it's about a couple of teens that are together and slowly, one at a time, they start getting picked off by this supernatural entity. The whole modern twist to this is that the whole thing is done while they're on Skype. And while they're in their private conversations on Skype, there's this unknown person tagging along with them. And at first they think it's a glitch, but then they think it's a hacker, but it turns out it's more of a supernatural being that wants revenge. So it becomes a little bit of a classic slasher film when they start getting picked off one at a time, and there's some psychological thriller aspects to it as well. The characters are your typical horror movie stereotypes and horror movie tropes, but the characters are never too cliched, and the acting is pretty good. Ultimately, the characters act and talk like you would expect normal teenagers to be like. They never overdo it, and some movies just fail to be able to capture that realism on how teens actually speak and act. Some movies try way too hard, and this one didn't, and it worked pretty well. Very similar to a lot of the other horror movies that have been coming out lately, there's a deeper meaning to the whole film. There actually is a bit of a good moral story to it, and that is, don't be cyberbullies. Seriously. It's very anti-cyberbully, that's for sure. The kills are pretty creative, pretty gory and violent, and pretty well done, even though you might not see all of it because the camera will glitch out and there'll be static and the frame rate will be off, just like sort of if you have a bad connection while you're talking to a friend on Skype. Okay, the greatest strength to this movie, and ultimately most people will consider it the gimmick of this movie, is also its greatest downfall. For one, it's very committed to just showing the main character's computer screen the entire time. Except for the last scene, a little bit of the last scene, it doesn't show the computer, but I won't go into spoilers for that. Basically, you see the desktop, you see all the little tabs that she's checked on, and she'll minimize a tab and go and you'll focus on another tab, and all the little clicks, the sounds, and a lot of the things just look so realistic, and let's face it, it actually puts some realism into the movie. It is edited very nicely as well, because you gotta think that they've had 5 or 6 different cameras for all these different characters and taped them in different times, and it's all edited together in a way that makes it look like everything's really happening in one long take, and hey, it actually looks like that. You also get to see little things about what the main character is typing, because while she doesn't send all the things she types, you see her thought process and what kind of stuff she's thinking about saying, and you get a little bit more into her head, and it's pretty neat. Like, she'll start typing something and to say to her boyfriend or someone else in the conversation, and she thinks about it and she's like, you know what, I better say something else, so she'll erase it and then start and say a totally different thing. And it gets you a little bit closer into her head and a little bit more of a mindset on what her feelings are. It's really neat how they use technology to boost the tension in the movie. There are several times they try to kick out the person or try to log off and log on, doing everything they can and trying to close out of tabs and change things, and sometimes things that should pop up never pop up and they can't click onto it, or several times the girl will type something in that she wants to say to this unknown person, but before she can send it, the person is already responding to her. There's some really neat things in this film. Now, like I said, it's the greatest strength this movie has, and it's what adds the realism and adds the uniqueness to the movie. Unfortunately, it's also its biggest flaw because it'll alienate certain people. There are some people that will not get past the fact that it's just a computer screen that you're seeing on this big screen or on your TV when you eventually rent it. And I can understand that. It's a little odd to be watching a computer screen the entire time for a movie. But if you can get through that fact, look at the heart of this film, and also if you're a big classic horror movie buff, then I think you're going to find something you will love about this film. My dad, which he loves a lot of the slasher stuff, and he likes movies that are very gory and a lot of serial killer movies. He's not a big fan of supernatural films, and he really liked this movie. And I liked it, and I was surprised. At that same time, as we were getting out of the theater, I heard this girl get up and she said, "That was the stupidest thing I have ever seen." That lady must be privileged, because I have seen far worse movies. Like, I can understand you not liking this movie, some other people not liking this movie, but there are way worse films out there, films that really shouldn't even have been made in the first place, or things that are completely wrong in editing, acting, and tons of other stuff. There is a lot of things going for this film. So in the end, I have to give Unfriended 4 stars. It is among my top 20 movies of 2015 so far, and I have a good feeling that it will either stay in the 20s or at least stay in the 30s or 40s, because unless a ton of movies start coming out that I absolutely love. So if you've seen Unfriended, go ahead and comment. Tell me, what did you think about it? Did you hate it? Did you love it? What did you think about the whole computer screen for the whole movie? And if you haven't seen Unfriended, then what is your favorite horror movie? Particularly something more in the found footage range, I would imagine. And if you like my review, go ahead and subscribe and check out my other reviews I've got for 2015. Some of the newer ones are better edited and better in general. But go ahead, check it out, please. Please. As always, this is Bruce Gifford, and this was just my opinion.